it's not working, just feel free to ask your questions on Q&A. I'm Will Trapp. I'm the founder at Gratavid. I also got Frank Mumford on our team. Frank's a former major giving officer from United Way. He's been at Gratavid for almost 2.5 years. So he's knows Gratavid like the back of his hand, and strategy too. So if you have questions about fundraising, or hey, how can I use video to get in front of more people to raise more gifts and steward donors, he is the person to ask there. Hopefully I did you well there, Frank. Did you justice? So what are we going to be talking about today? At the beginning, I'm going to talk a little bit about Gratavid, kind of what it is, our mission. Then I'm going to talk about some data on why it's so important to say thank you. As Bloomerang customers, you've probably seen some of this before, but just kind of really reiterate why it's so important to thank your donors and the opportunity that exists. And then finally, the majority of this is going to be our integration demo. So Gratavid is a separate product from Bloomerang, but it integrates really well. So I'm going to show you one, kind of how Gratavid works on the demo, then show you, the meaning of this whole webinar. I'm going to show you how you can automate sending these videos out and then saving engagement data back in Bloomerang. And then of course, we'll end it with some Q&A. Cool. So let's talk a little Gratavid. At the end of the day, Gratavid's mission is really just to make your communication more human and more authentic and more personal. So we just want to bring more human connection to a digital world. And one thing I love about Gratavid is we've seen the videos that perform the best with donors, that donors engage with, that they respond to, are not like the high-produced videos you normally think when you think of videos. It really is these like genuine iPhone videos or videos you record directly from your webcam. Getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but we'll get into this. With the Bloomerang and Gratavid integration, you can say, hey, if the gift amount is greater than a certain amount, then let me record a personalized video. So it's called creating a task. You can set a reminder, or you can automatically send videos. But in the integration, you can set up these rules. You can filter based off things like first-time donors or milestone donations. There's a really cool way you can set up these triggers. Kind of think of it like a stewardship matrix. But again, we'll get into the weeds of that. It's kind of getting ahead there. Awesome. So let's talk about why say thank you. So I know you're familiar with this stat. No matter almost any research you look at, either it's going to be 4 out of 5 donors aren't making a second donation, or on the conservative side, 3 out of 4 donors leave without making a second donation. So this is what we see over and over and over again. And sure, there's a whole webinar we could talk about on how to improve donor retention, but one of the most easy and simple methods you can implement right away is just a simple personal thank you. So Penelope Burke, I'm sure you're familiar with Penelope Burke. She's a legend in this space. She did a survey and she found that 93% of donors would definitely or probably give again to a charity that provided a prompt and personal thank you. I wish I could just like end the demo right there, in the webinar right there. If you're going to take anything home, just take how important it is to thank people in a prompt and personal thank you way. And so most of us have probably seen a stat like that, or we know it's important to thank our donors, but it's just not sexy. It's just not fun. And, why is this? Why do we know it's important, but we still don't prioritize the thank you process? And if you think about it, there's just really not a ton of thank you options out there. So on the lower end of low impact, and it doesn't take much time, is the automated thank you receipts. You get those, your fundraising software, Bloomerang automatically sends those out. And then me as a donor, when I receive those, I'm just adding those to a Gmail folder and I'm not really thinking about them. Very, very transactional. On the far end of the things that take more time but have a higher impact, or a handwritten card, amazing. I love handwritten cards. Everyone loves receiving those. And then phone calls. Both of these are really great, but the reality is they just take a lot of time. And so it's hard to really build a good system around them. And then with phone calls, we are just seeing more and more donors not answering their phone calls as kind of spam picks up. So it's just harder to get on the phone with these donors. Again, I still think phones are the best because you can collect all that two-way data, but it takes a lot of time, and it's, we don't have a lot of options with thank yous. This is where we think video can fit in. So if you think about it, video, if you have an integration like the one we're going to talk, it doesn't take as much time because you can automate a lot of that process. So it kind of does that assistant work for you of saying, hey, here's you need to thank, and you just record the video, but it still has a lot of that impact. So you're not going to be sacrificing the impact your thank you is having for the time it's going to take. So you can send them out quicker and then keep that same amount of impact. I love this quote from Mike Sally. On Gratavid, he says it takes me less time to do a personal video than to write, edit, and send letters that are not as personal. My donors are super impressed with my Gratavids and mention they've never felt so seen and appreciated. So just going back to this point of you can send these out quicker, they're a lot easier to manage, but it can still have just as much impact as some of those high touch points like a thank you card or a phone call. One of my favorite pieces of research is from Dr. Jen Shang. She says research shows that donors pay the most attention to the thank you communication. So just think about that. Donors pay the most attention to the thank you communication. The first time I read this, I thought of myself as a donor. And when I give donations, when am I most likely to pay to something they're sending me? It's, right after I make that gift. And it's usually that automated, kind of boring transactional newsletter. But I just think intuitively, this just makes so much sense. And us as fundraisers, we stress about open rates and click-through rates. And, my donors aren't paying attention to my message without really thinking about when are donors most likely to pay attention. And I think this research that just shows the thank you communication is really when your donors are paying the most attention. And so if you think about this, instead of thinking of the thank you as a chore or a task or something you kind of have to do, we like to think of the thank you much more as an opportunity, right? Because your donor's paying attention. And so it's an opportunity to get to know them, to thank them, to reach out and collect more data. Hey, why do you give? What's your story? So we really think you should shift your mindset away from this idea of it's a task or it's a chore to, hey, it's an opportunity. It's going to let me get to know my donor. And who knows, I can moves management that donor into a mid-tier giving, into a major donor. I really love this quote from Julie Cooper. She's had a lot of influence on me personally, thinking about the thank you as an opportunity. But she says the gift should start the process of bonding the donor to that cause. If I give to a nonprofit, I've got some sense of a bond or some reason I'm giving. The thank you communication is really what kind of forms that bond. So that's how I get welcomed into the nonprofit. So just reiterating a great opportunity there. And then finally, the last quote I'll show you before getting into demos from the legendary John Hayden. Simply put, thinking is not about the past, it's about the future. So again, thinking of the thank you as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to get through your donors, they're paying attention, to get to know them and really figure out, why they're giving to your organization and really start to form that relationship. So that is why you can see I'm fired up about thanking donors. That is why we think thanking is so important and really why we create a Gratavid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here, I'm going to share my screen, and now we're going to get into the Gratavid portion of the demo. So I'm going to talk Gratavid, maybe 5 minutes, kind of high level, just so you understand how Gratavid works. And then toward the end, maybe starting in 5 minutes from now, the last 10 minutes, I'm going to talk about the Bloomerang integration. But like I said, whenever I talk about Gratavid, I really love to talk about our mission or start with our mission. At the end of the day, we're just trying to make your communication more human, more personal. We started Gratavid because we as donors, we were tired of receiving these just kind of these boring and boilerplate email newsletters. This is an example from Arkansas 4-H Foundation. And what they do, this is an example Gratavid right here. And what they do that's really, really smart is they'll send a personalized video every single time a new donor comes in or a major gift comes in. You can see I've got my headphones in so you can't hear it, but this is John Thomas. And he's basically saying, hey, Glenn, just saw your donation come in. Thanks so much for the donation. Just a quick 20-second, 30-second video. And then you can see at the top, it kind of works like Instagram stories. This is what's cool about Gratavid, is you can add multiple videos to a single page. And so strategically, what 4-H Foundation does is they send this nice personalized video up front. So the donor gets to hear their name, maybe mention their partner, their spouse, their family. And then the second video is actually a testimonial of a student that's gone through the 4-H program. And he's talking about the impact donors had on his life. And so you as a donor, right off the bat, you're getting that personalized thank you, where it's personally calling you out, mentioning your family, but then you're also hearing from someone your donation is making a direct impact on. So that organization is clearly communicating how your donor dollar is going to be put to use. So it's just a really powerful and strategic way to use video in a great thank you strategy. So this is an example Gratavid. This is what your constituents are going to receive. Now let's show you how we create these in Gratavid. Awesome. So I'm going to log into Gratavid. This is what Gratavid is going to look like. So imagine you log in. This is what you'll see. Within Gratavid, there is really two main concepts to understand. There's this concept of what we call a task list. And think of your task list just as a list of personalized videos you need to record. So for example, John Smith made a $500 donation. After that, Sally Brooks made a $700 donation. So again, these are these lists of one-to-one personalized videos you want to record. I'll show you here in a bit, but what you can do with Bloomerang is you can have Bloomerang automatically create these tasks as new gifts come in, and you can filter based off, hey, first-time donors or milestone donors. So a really cool way. It just really simplifies the process of who you need to thank. The second component of Gratavid is something we call note templates. So think of note templates as just campaigns. So you might have a template, maybe you've got an event coming up. You can send out a Gratavid, so you create a note right here, or you have a template for first-time donors, or imagine you've got a template thanking people for making their donation. So this is where you can come in here and you can kind of create these campaigns, create these templates right from within Gratavid. If you're familiar with MailChimp or Constant Contact, same kind of concept there, or even the email builder inside Bloomerang, same kind of concept there. You can change the organization's name, the messaging right here. You can use merge fields, but then really the star of the show is the videos section right here. So what you can do is you can record a video. You can grab videos that exist in your Gratavid library. You can upload files. But going back to my example in the beginning, remember how we had that video from that student? Well, what you can do with Gratavid is you can click request new video. You can type in a request right here. You can give that a title. And what you can do is you can request videos from anyone. They don't have to have a username. They don't have to log in. So you'd add that person's name. You say something like, thank John for his donation, just add some directions right there. Mention his wife, Sally, pretty creative name there. And what you're going to do is you could copy and paste this link with that recorder, or you even could add their cell phone number and then send them a text directly asking them to record a video. And so this recorder, in my example, that's Will Trapp. This could be a volunteer or an ambassador, or your CEO, or executive director you're requesting the video from. Can do this from anyone without having to log into Gratavid. They're going to get this link. It's going to have your branding, your name right here. It's going to have their name and then their directions. And so they can simply come right here, record a video, or if they have a cell phone, a smartphone, they can record it right from their phone. No logging in, no training needed. So it's just a really, really simple process for you to collect these testimonials, for you to collect these videos from anyone within and outside the organization. Awesome. So imagine you've got your video in here. I've got just kind of one uploaded right here. You can continue to build out this campaign. You can add a call to action button right here. Maybe you do want to send this video out to 1,000 people or 10,000 people. You can add donate now. If this was some kind of an event registration, you could add an RSVP. So a lot of cool ways you could use that. Then of course, you can change branding if you want to. You can even change your email settings, like the subject and where that email is sending from. There's a lot of great settings kind of baked in here. And then finally, since this is a note, if I wanted to, I could queue it up for this note to send to a bulk list of people. So I could come right here and I could say all my donors. I could import that from a CSV file. And then now this video is queued up to send to my list of top donors. And I'd simply come down here and I'd click send. It would blast that Gratavid off. So that is the process for sending Gratavids out in bulk. So think one-to-many. Next, I'm going to cover the task list, and then finally, I'm going to talk about the Bloomerang integration. I'll probably pause right here. Frank, any questions that you haven't answered that I should answer?
No, I'm just putting them into the chat. So in the questions in the Q&A section, so I'm responding.
Perfect. All right, so I'll come back to questions here in a little bit. So I just showed you the process in Gratavid for uploading a video, kind of creating a campaign, and then sending this out in bulk. So imagine sending that one video to 1,000, 10,000, 500 people, whatever it is. Like we said, the other component of Gratavid is the task list. This is probably my favorite section of Gratavid. Think of this more where you're going to do mid-tier giving, major giving, thanking new donors. This is where you're going to record one-to-one personalized videos. The way the task list works is you can come right here. Let's just add a task manually. So I can add a task manually. I can even add a task from a CSV file. So imagine you had like a list of personalized people, a list of people you want to personally thank. You can add that from a CSV file. Again, Bloomerang is going to add these two, but we'll cover that in a second. What's really great about the task is I can come right here and I can collaborate with my team, because I can say, hey, these 3 tasks, I'm actually going to assign these to my president. I want my president or my executive director to record some videos. And then these tasks down here, let's assign these to my executive director. And so now what you can do is you can tell your executive director or your president to log into Gratavid, and they can just complete those tasks assigned to them. So it's a really great way. It's a really great workflow of getting your entire team involved. Another cool thing about tasks is, imagine you did want to assign some tasks to your executive director, but chances are your executive director probably doesn't have time to come into Gratavid, or you might not always have time to come into Gratavid and record those videos. What you can do with Gratavid is we have something called assignee links. And so what you can do is you can click this, and then you can share that video with your ED or even a volunteer or an ambassador. You can assign tasks to them. And so now, without having to log into Gratavid or be trained on Gratavid, they can complete their tasks. They can say, hey, Will, thanks for your donation. Hey, John, thanks so much for your donation. So it's a really, really simple way for you to assign a bunch of videos and have them completed by someone internally or even externally. So that's the power of the task list, is that assigning functionality. And then finally, let's say you're ready to record your task, you're rocking and rolling, a new gift come in. Will, thank you so much for your recent donation. Hope you have the best day ever, and stick around for this amazing video. Maybe y'all do a little bit better on your video, but hey, y'all kind of get the idea there. But you can see with these task videos, this is really meant to be where you record these one-to-one personalized videos. And then the way the task list works is, step 1 is you record the video. And then step 2, this is where you're going to select that template that we created. So back to the notes, you might have a template for first-time donors or milestone donors. You can select those, and that way you don't have to pre-fill that information in every single time. So it's just a really, really simple process. And then I'm also going to click this checkbox, which says, hey, include my note videos, my template videos after my task video. And then boom, I just sent that off. And now that's how easy it is to record and send these one-to-one personalized videos. I can even come right here, and then now I'm on to the next one. Awesome. And so what this is going to look like, let me open up my email. So this is what your donor is going to receive in their inbox. So I just sent this to myself, but imagine you're a donor and your name Will. My favorite tip or my favorite trick is I like to take a piece of paper or a whiteboard and write that donor's name on it. And then the second Will opens up his inbox, he's going to see his name with a piece, he's going to see his name on a piece of paper like that. He's immediately going to recognize this video is personalized to him. The chances of Will clicking on that, chances of Will engaging on that are just that much greater. So Will's going to click the video, watch it, and then he's going to see that second video, which was on our template. So that is the process for creating and sending these tasks. So pretty cool. Finally, I kind of explained Gratavid, maybe talked a little bit longer than I wanted to, but now we can get into the Bloomerang integration now that you understand Gratavid. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to go to integrations, going to click on Bloomerang. Bloomerang integration literally takes 5 seconds to connect. Basically, a pop-up says, hey, enter your Bloomerang credentials, you log in. And then once you're logged in, you have these different events you can turn on. And this is where you can say, hey, anytime a Gratavid is sent, so when I sent that Gratavid, automatically save it back in Bloomerang. Anytime someone replies to a Gratavid, have that automatically saved back in Bloomerang. And then anytime someone watches a Gratavid all the way through, you can automatically save that back in Bloomerang. So have that analytical data automatically saved back in Bloomerang. And you can even customize kind of how it gets saved there. So that is taking data from Gratavid, analytical data, and saving it back in Bloomerang. Now let's go the other way. Let's take data from Bloomerang. A new gift came in and automatically take some action in Gratavid. And so this is where you can say, hey, when a new donation is added in Bloomerang, let's take some action in Gratavid. So come right here, turn that on. So now when a new donation is added in Bloomerang, we want to automatically send our video that we just created called "Thank you for your donation." Perfect. Awesome. So now what this is going to say, it's going to say, hey, every single time a new donation comes in, automatically send this Gratavid campaign, automatically send this Gratavid video. So literally completely hands off. This will be completely automated. You're probably like, whoa, that is way too much automation. I don't want to automatically send something every time. And so this is where the Gratavid rules can come in. So this is where you can say, hey, when a new donation comes in, I want to add a rule. And if that donation is greater than or equal to $500, instead of automatically sending a Gratavid template, instead of automatically sending a Gratavid video, I'm going to have it create a Gratavid task because I want to personally thank that donor. And then you can have those tasks assigned to your executive director or development officer or someone on your team. And so this is how you can automate that stewardship matrix by saying, hey, we consider gifts over 500 to be major gifts, or maybe it's over 100. So anytime those come in, a Gratavid task is going to get created. And then this fundraiser on your team is going to get notified via email. It's going to say, hey, click here, record a personalized video. And then they'll also get notified via the Gratavid iOS and Android app. And so then it's just a few clicks for them to record a video and then send that out. So really simple process. That's probably the most common setup, but you can also come right here. You can say, hey, it's really important to thank first-time donors. So a ton of research out there that talks about the importance of thanking first-time donors. You can say, hey, if a gift comes in and it's a constituent's first gift, then we want to personally thank them and welcome them to our organization. So we're going to have it create a task, and then we'll assign that to someone on the team. And then you might say, hey, if it's not a first-time donation, then let's just thank them if it's over 500, create a task, assign that to someone else. And then the last category of these events or conditions is something we call milestones. So this is pretty cool. So imagine you're a donor and you give $50 a month or $100 a month. Sure, it might be nice to be thanked in the beginning, but what about over time as you give $1,000, $5,000? What about your lifetime giving? So what you can do is you can automatically say, hey, if the new gift that came in, if it caused this donor to reach $1,000 lifetime giving or $5,000 lifetime giving or 10,000, whatever you want, then automatically send something or create a Gratavid task so that we can personally thank that donor and notify them that, hey, they just gave, the last gift put them over the $1,000 lifetime giving mark. So it's a really automated and cool way to continue to steward those donors throughout the lifetime of their giving. You can filter those based off of lifetime giving. You can also do it on their donation number. So some people say, hey, on the second donation, we want to thank them, and then on the fifth one, and then the 10th one. So you can do it on that. You can do it based off of consecutive years given. So once someone is consecutively given for 3 calendar years, 5 calendar years, whatever. And then if you have like giving societies that say, hey, that since July 1st, they've given $1,000, that puts them in our President Society, then have that trigger. So a lot of cool ways you can kind of set up these rules. And then big picture, the way these work is it's kind of like a waterfall. So it's going to evaluate the top one first. If that's true, then this will run and nothing else will happen. If it's not true, it'll kind of keep working its way down. And then you just need to set these up one time, and then Gratavid and Bloomerang will automatically respond and create your rules, create your task, or send your notes for you. So that is the Bloomerang integration. Pretty dang cool. Last thing I'll show you is just what this looks like. So if you have a task that's automatically created from Bloomerang, you can see it's going to bring in this information. And since it was created by Bloomerang, we get this nice little link right here. And so what I can do is I can actually click this link. It's going to take me directly to that Bloomerang page, the constituent that made the gift. And so then I can see their giving history right here. So then you can get more information about them, their family information, to really help you personalize a video. And then at the beginning of the integration, remember I talked about how Gratavid can automatically save data back in Bloomerang. So this is what that's going to look like. So you can see right here, sent Gratavid, Gratavid reply, Gratavid watch, and you can even click on these to get more information. And what this will do is it's going to pull up what the constituent replied. Then it's even going to show you a link to that Gratavid. So again, this information is going to automatically flow back into Bloomerang for you. So I feel like I've done a lot of talking. I'm going to open it up. Frank, do we have any questions?
Yeah, good pause there. One question that I thought we could answer live is, what is the time frame for setup and starting to use the product?
Pretty quick. So we can get you set up pretty much same day, definitely same week. And then what we'll do is say you sign up for Gratavid, you reach out with our team. Maybe, Frank, if you don't want to mind, if you haven't already, add your schedule link, your calendar link. That's probably the quickest way to get going. You can also go to Gratavid. You can go to setup demo right here. But Frank, the link Frank
Yeah,
will share.
it's in the chat.
Perfect. That's probably the quickest way. But basically, you'll have a demo. We'll talk you through this. We'll talk to you about pricing. And then once you align on pricing and contract, we can normally get you set up in the same week. So it happens super fast. And then the Bloomerang integration really does take like 2 seconds to connect. So it's super simple. No like approvals, no API stuff you have to deal with. Very, very simple. And then if you do sign up for Gratavid, we will do a 1-hour kickoff call with you where we walk you through the rules and we walk you through setting them up so you can answer questions there. Then of course you can answer questions after that. Hopefully that helps.
Awesome. There we go. I was muted. Yeah. And then as far as like adoption, say like you sign up and you're like, what's the time frame on feeling comfortable with sending stuff out, having the integration going? Would you say 2 weeks, 30 days? Any examples? I'm happy to share some
I would
too.
say, so the good thing about Gratavid is you sign up, then we're going to set up, right? You sign up, we're going to send an email from our customer success team saying like, hey, let's set up a training call. On that training call, we're going to set up your Bloomerang integration. So you're going to feel good about those rules there. And then typically what we tell people is we say, hey, pick your top 5 donors or most recent donations, and then just send them 5 videos out of the task list. And then once you do that, you'll start getting replies back from donors and you're going to feel really comfortable. And then you're going to feel really comfortable with Gratavid. So typically we see people rocking and rolling after just a few days.
Yeah, and I think a really good example, we did have a training one morning and they were able to get it going and sent it out that afternoon. And what's cool about that is the first group of people they sent it to, they literally were already getting replies of like, this is so amazing. This was really heartwarming and touching. And so it really depends. And then the next question will, how does it work with firewall / spam friendly? Are the videos, did they make it to the recipient?
Yeah, great question. Hey, while we're doing that, do you want to go ahead, Marjorie, and post the poll that we have? And then I can answer that question. So we're going to answer a poll basically saying, hey, do you want to learn more about Gratavid? So firewall spam questions. So email spam really looks at 2 things. It looks at the email IP address you're sending from. So think of that almost like the tech server that's sending the emails. That's one part of email reputation. The second part of email reputation is something called your domain, your sending domain. If you sign up for Gratavid, one of the options we have is we call it branded domains. It allows you to send Gratavids directly from your own domain. And so that's great because your donors likely have some experience with that domain. So it's much less likely to end up in the spam filter or to end up kind of getting filtered out. One thing about Gratavid though, is technically they're HTML heavy, which is basically just means there's a lot of formatting. So notice like you got a logo here, you got an image here. Because they're HTML heavy, they look kind of formatting, they look kind of brandy. Then some email recipients, some email servers, clients will consider that promotional. And so one nice feature about Gratavid, I didn't really talk it here, but we have a feature called automatic resending. So if I come down here, I can see this resend. I can say, hey, automatically resend my email if it's not opened in 3 days, in 7 days, whatever it is. And then what it does is it resends it as a plain text email. So it looks like someone literally just typed it out, but that doesn't have any formatting. And so this automatically gets sent out and it loses that formatting. So it's much more likely to beat, if your first email ended up in spam, then the second resend is much more likely to reach their inbox. Great questions, but quick answer, automatic resend helps with that. And then so does branded domains, sending directly from your own domain.
Yep. And the good thing about that too is we're not actually attaching videos into the email sends, which some people try to do. I tried to do it myself as a fundraiser. That's why I have Gratavid, or I use Gratavid. So the delivery rates are actually pretty high. And then people do tend to ask, like, what about the Apple restrictions and all of that? You do get analytics, and we have not seen any adverse changes in our analytics or tracking based on some of the Apple restrictions that they did with their stuff. Next question, will do videos expire? If so, how long do they last?
No, videos last as long as your plan with Gratavid lasts. So videos last indefinitely. Hey, do we want to do the poll?
Yeah, so
Sorry.
I was gonna say,
Okay.
well, I seem to be having technical difficulties today, so I apologize. So what I would like to do is, if you would, answer the poll in the chat for me, which now actually works. So here's here's the poll question. The poll question is, would you like to learn more about how to automate your thank you process with this amazing integration? If so, would you please put yes in the chat for me? That way we can make sure that we get back with you and that we can follow up so that you get more information about this. And I apologize for the technical issues today. I guess it's just a technical Tuesday today. So
No
I love
worries.
that.
No worries.
And then another question we have here, Will, for you. And this is one I could answer as well, but I would love to hear your insight. When working with new clients, what seems to be the most difficult part of using this technology? What leads to success and what can be challenging?
I think the where people get in trouble is they overthink it, right? They think, oh, video, I've got to be super polished, I've got to be perfect. And kind of like I said in the beginning, like the videos we see that work the best on Gratavid are the unpolished ones. They're the genuine ones. They're, people making an error on the video, but they keep recording anyway. And so people kind of getting in their head thinking they've got to be perfect. They've got to, have this great perfect script. And so they just never get going. So that's why I always say, hey, right when you get started, you need to, just send out 5 videos, 10 videos to your top donors. I promise you, if you send out 10 videos, you're going to get some responses. And it's kind of a dopamine hit hearing back from those donors. And what we hear over and over again is this quote from John right here, is he's just had so many donors that are, stop responding. And Gratavid, he says, through Gratavid, I am finally getting consistent replies from contacts who have been unresponsive. And again, that's not because he has the most polished video, just because he's got this fun, genuine, authentic video where it's like, hey, this is me in my backyard. You're just reaching out and kind of catching up with you. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing as well, beyond just like overthinking it, is just getting comfortable with doing it. As we all say 2 years ago, people were really weird with video and like being on a virtual call like this or presenting virtually. And I would say 2 years have gone by and some people still are weird, but a lot of people have gotten a lot more comfortable. And so it's the time of doing it. And then making yourself comfortable. So when I first started using Gratavid as a major gift officer, I realized early on that I would just say the same thing over and over, but then I would tweak what I said differently per donor, per my thank you. And so having that almost script helped me overcome some of that nerves. And then once I did it more, it was amazing. And I'll actually be presenting here in November on what I did to use Gratavid and video to close $1 million using video platforms and Zoom meetings. So just a little teaser there.
Love it. Any other questions out there? Nice. Looks like no questions, Frank.
Yep, looks someone just came in. Are videos shareable if donors want to post to their network or forward an email?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the settings you control on the note, again, think of the note kind of where your templating and your settings are. As you can come down here, you can say share settings. So by default, we'll show the share button, but you can turn that off if you want to, and you can even add a download button. And then you can even change it's called meta tags. But if someone does share it, you can change what that's going to show on Facebook. So that'd be your title and description. So if you kind of want to customize, if you expect people to share it, you can really customize exactly what that's going to look like as they share it out over social media. Great question.
I'll ask a quick question for you, Will. So looking at the integration and just looking at the platform, how did you come up with a lot of this, or what was the process of figuring out what was going to be the best for the end user as well as the donor?
Sounds like a setup. So my favorite question. to be honest with you, a lot of people ask that question, and Frank's heard me say this before. A lot of people ask the question like, "Oh my goodness, how did you think about all this stuff?" The reality is we didn't. So Gratavid just started with the simple idea of sending a video to thank donors, sending a video via email. And then we realized like, hey, we can build these integrations. And so then we get started with the integration because someone was like, I really need to make sure my records are clean in Bloomerang. So I want to be able to send Gratavid data back to Bloomerang. And then someone was like, hey, it'd be amazing if I could automatically send a Gratavid as GIF comes in. So then we had this integration. And then someone was like, hey, it's really important for us to thank first-time donors. We know how important it is to thank them, what that's going to do to our donor impact. So then we added the ability to filter based off first-time donors. And so Gratavid really has just been a small kind of iterative day-by-day build based on feedback, just from people like y'all. It's really a tool that was built for nonprofits and built for fundraisers. So the short answer to your question is we didn't think any of this. It's just been from great feedback from our existing partners.
Another question, which I'm happy to answer this one, but Will, you know my answer to it. Do you think videos should fully replace thank you letters or act as a supplement?
I'm team and strategy, not or strategy, which is probably same as you. Like my opinion, I would just be like a snaky salesman if I said don't do phone calls. Phone calls are amazing. You can collect so much two-way data. The reality is it's just kind of a pain point, like figuring out what number do I call, and then the donors don't answer. We see a lot of people using Gratavid. They'll make a phone call first because they can collect that two-way data. If the donor doesn't answer the phone call, then they send a video. It's like, hey, I'm Will. I want to introduce myself. I just left a phone call. Feel free to call me back. And then handwritten cards. Like me personally, I love receiving handwritten cards, but it's hard to do those every single time. And handwritten cards make you feel good, but they don't necessarily communicate the impact you're making. And that's where I think video can shine, is it can communicate those testimonials to where the donor understands exactly how the money is being put to use. What would you say there, Frank?
Yeah, I mean, mine was always an and. I'm going to do anything, everything. If I'm looking to qualify a donor, I'm going to do anything and everything to get through and get to them. And then if this is just one of those simple, they made a $50 one-off gift, maybe a video makes sense, maybe it doesn't at this point. And that's where sometimes you are going to do template stuff, and that's okay. But when you look at donor retention and increased giving, communicating the impact and doing it effectively and in a timely manner, that's really where I see video playing a huge role. It played a huge role into my success, both at the United Way. Two other nonprofits I worked at used video for both of that. And this was by far the easiest way was Gratavid, but video was something that I had always integrated into my plans.
Yeah. And just another touch point, you should be asking, what'd you do at United Way? You had like 5 touch points between each ask. Video is just
5 to 7.
Nice. Video is just a nice touch point between those asks. So it doesn't feel like every time you're reaching out, you're asking for money. If you're sending a video thanking them, the next time you ask for a gift, they're going to remember, oh yeah, I remember that video they sent thanking me. Nice. This gets me fired up. I love it. Great questions.
Yeah, Will, one of the things I want to point out too, just from my nonprofit experience, is how this can be such a time saver for a lot of organizations, because there's a lot of, you brought up today, several of the ways that this can integrate and actually save people so much time. And as we know, that's in nonprofit space right now is vitally important. Everyone is really having to struggle with that. So yeah,
absolutely. And time's a huge one too. And for me, it's brain power too, because you can set these rules up once and then you're not having to think about, oh, do I need to thank this donor? Do I not need to thank this donor? Let that logic, let that kind of stewardship matrix decide for you.
Exactly. Are there any other questions?
Nice.
Yeah, some really good, thoughtful questions today from the audience. So that's wonderful. And I know that several of you indicated that you would love to have some contact So we'll definitely be sharing that information, and you'll be finding out more about how to automate this process so that you're saving time and money. I see Angela has entered a question here. She said something to consider and some free accessibility advice. Be sure to say your name in the video so someone who has a visual impairment knows who's speaking. That's a really good thought. So thanks for sharing that, Angela. Yeah.
Yeah, that is smart. And one thing too, I didn't get into this at the time, but Gratavid can automatically generate captions for you.
Oh, nice.
But I like even adding to that. It's like, start out the video saying, hey, I'm Frank Trapp or Frank Mumford, Will Trapp, whatever it is, whatever your name is. Forgot my name for a second, but it's, a thoughtful way. So then if you did add captions, one, they would hear your name, but if maybe they're seeing impaired, they would be able to read your name, or the screen reader would read it for them.
Am I seeing that it's offered in Spanish as well?
So we have over 100 languages here. So you could take this English and convert it to 109 different languages here.
That's amazing.
So especially, yeah, pretty dang cool.
Love it.
Nice. Well, if we don't have any other questions, just want to say thank y'all so much. Feel free to reach out, will@gratavid.com, frank@gratavid.com, and go to our website to book some time. But this was fun. I don't know why I'm fired up. I'm ready to send some thank you videos.
Yeah, well, and to piggyback on the end, first of all, thank you, Will and Frank, both. You were both amazing. Will, great presentation. Frank, you were typing like a madman on the back end. Thank you so much for all of that. I do want to mention also, if you're interested in hearing more, we do have 2 more sessions coming up for Bloomerang Academy with Gratavid, and we're very excited about both of these. So on October 13th, Frank is going to be back, and he's going to be talking specifically about automating your Giving Tuesday thank you process. We know Giving Tuesday is huge, and we want to make sure that we are thanking our donors, especially on that day. And then again, we're going to have him back on November 3rd. And Frank is going to be talking about appeals and solicitations. I'm super excited about this. I think this is going to be a really great presentation you don't want to miss. So again, thank you both. We really appreciate you being here with us today. And to all of you in attendance, thank you so much for all the work you're doing in your communities. If you have any questions or anything you want to reach out to me, academy@bloomerang.com, please reach out. And with that, I think we're going to give people back a few minutes. So those are precious, we know. And I hope everyone has a great afternoon.
Take care.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Bye-bye.